So what happens if you failed a pen test? Okay, well, there's no official pass-fail when it comes to a pen test, but we all know what we're talking about here. Maybe the report came back with high or critical issues you didn't expect. There might have even been vulnerabilities in parts of your code that you haven't touched in years, which means they've just been sitting there exposed. Or, maybe the testers ran roughshod all over things and you're unsure of how to proceed whatsoever. On top of that, maybe you've got compliance deadlines looming, SOC 2, HIPAA, ISO, and you're worried this could tank everything. But here's the thing, you're not doomed. You're actually sitting on a gold mine of insight, and how you respond next after this tough pen test might be the most important part. So how do you respond? There are major things that an auditor is going to look for now. First of all, it's that you remediate the issues while sticking to your SLAs. That might be 24, 72 hours for critical issues, 7 to 14 days for high severity issues, 30 to 60 for mediums, 90s for lows, or even just address them in a quarterly hardening cycle. It's up to you what your SLAs are. Just make sure they're reasonable. If you're telling your auditor that it's going to be 6 weeks to address a critical issue, they're probably not going to like that, even if you are keeping to that timeline. Overall, make sure that these issues are assigned and scheduled quickly. Even if the high severity issue might take a full week or more to remediate, you should start triaging it right away, not waiting till days after disclosure. That may be the most important part here. Your auditor and your customers want to see that you do what you say you will, and that's laid out in your policy ahead of time. And be sure to keep your evidence, save your tickets that were created for resolving these issues, and submit those as evidence during your audit. Overall, they just want to see proof that you are managing your vulnerabilities. Next up, you'll want to get a retest. So these typically aren't full penetration tests performed again, but a focused retest of the same issues that appeared on the original report. The point is for the same testers who found the original issues to go in again and test and see if you remediated successfully. If you have, they'll mark them as remediated on the report, mention the improvements they saw, and issue an updated report. If there's still issues, something, maybe wasn't truly remediated, it's still vulnerable, maybe in a slightly different way, they'll let you know that. If they're nice, they'll even give you a little more time to try again before updating the report. So if all goes well and you've remediated your issues, you'll now end up with a report that still shows those original issues, but now shows them as basically closed, that they've been remediated, taken care of. You can usually even ask at this point for a customer-facing executive summary. So something that spells out that a penetration test was performed, here are the dates, here's who did it, things like that. And there were issues found, but we saw that they were remediated. And it doesn't expose any of the sensitive technical details that you would see on the full report. Of course, your auditor will still want to see that full report, but that's something that you could share out, almost publicly, or at least just with clients and anybody who may ask for a pen test report. There's proof that you had one done without, exposing the sensitive technical details. So at this point, you've likely made your auditor happy. Even with the issues in the original report, you showed that you stuck to your policy, you stuck to your timelines, and that your vulnerability management process worked. So now's the time when you can really show improvement. You might look into things like code quality or vulnerability scanners that sit inside your IDEs and check as code is written, or security or vulnerability checks at build time that maybe live inside your CI/CD platform. Or you could do infrastructure or web app vulnerability scans on your own. Buy a license for a scanner, assign it out to have that scanner run, and do something with the results. Or if you don't have the time or the resources for all that, there can be a lot of false positives in scanners that might take the time from your team when they could be doing something else. It might be that the pen test company you used will do things like that too. Often, companies will do penetration testing and vulnerability management. A lot of times, and I would say a good pen test company or a good vuln management company will include validation. So they're not just handing you the report straight out of the scanner, but they are taking the time to go through and make sure that each issue is real, maybe add some context, add some tailored remediation guidance before handing it over to you. And that way you're not really getting any false positives or just like information you can't work with. They may even do things like put in tickets for you rather than just dumping PDFs. That can be a lot easier to ingest if, they're going into Jira or whatever and creating the tickets rather than, emailing you once a month or once a quarter with a PDF. And in some cases, you can even let them in to your ticketing system to work with devs and asset owners to see the issues through to remediation. So your mileage may vary there just based on the company and what they offer. So aside from all the technical things, there may be policy improvements that you found you need. So you've now been through this whole process. Ask yourself and ask your team, what worked, what didn't? Do we need to make adjustments to our SLAs? Do we need, different policies? Were some missing that may have been helpful, things we didn't think of before that now are top of mind? So make adjustments and improvements there as needed. Another thing might be if you got a risk assessment, look back and see if what happened in reality with the vulnerabilities in your application aligned with your risk assessment. Maybe you'll find that your risk assessment was off, and next time you do it, you now have this information from a real world, exploitation, offensive security exercise that can inform your risk assessment. So just to wrap everything up here, a bad pen test isn't the end of the world. And by bad, of course, I don't mean a poor quality pen test. Those can be awful, and make sure you check out my video on that subject. But overall, getting a result that you didn't like is an opportunity just to prove that your processes work, see things through to remediation, and come out stronger on the other side, making improvements over time.